I'm working on a video talking about, Jordan Peterson really spelled this out beautiful for me, the sort of dancing of chaos and order.
Yeah.
And how, we have this idea that chaos is bad. And the way he explained it is like, it's just as necessary as order. Things are calm, there's order, then you have to break them. Then you have to pick up the pieces, rebuild it, and you have something new, and then you break it again. And so life is this perpetual staircase, and that's how you ascend. And I just thought that was a beautiful way of sort of articulating what we're trying to do.
Everyone, welcome to the show. This is Lane and Laney, all the things with Lane and Laney. Yes, I'm a little bit nervous this morning.
That's all right. I expected.
To everyone listening, thank you for joining us. This is a very special podcast, at least especially for me. You're about to listen to and possibly meet for your first time a man that has gone from the cubicle crony to the motivational guru in a sense. I'll let him speak on that idea to let him say that he's a guru or not. But he is, however, a badass in the content creation world of motivation and self-improvement. His content is available at Your World Within or Eddie Pinero on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, and yourworldwithin.com. This man ranks in my top 3 of the motivational, inspiring people that I listen to. His words will capture your mind and put you back on track towards positivity. If you haven't heard any of his work, then let today be the day that you find and sample it a bit. It's well worth your time. He writes his own material, creates his own videos, and produces his own music for those videos, all of which accumulate for you to become entranced in his messages. Whether you want to be inspired for the gym, reflect on your life, or just wanting the feeling that you are on the right path, his work is what I would call the sounding board for your mind. If you're seeking affirmation, if what you are doing is right, just listen to nearly any of his hundreds of videos and you will have no doubt. Please welcome to our podcast, Eddie Pinero.
Wow. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's well deserved, my friend. You've brought me out of several different pits, several different times. The way you speak on things that comes from the heart, the way you compose your music, just those elements in the background, the music coming in from the background, just kind of, I don't know, it pulls my mind to attention.
Yeah, that's what I found most different from, I mean, we both listen to a lot of motivational speakers and things like that, but yours was a lot different than anything I've listened to. And I think the music was that it just did draw your focus right into listening to your words.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I love the entirety of the process. I think it's sometimes in a weird way, sometimes it's not even what you say, it's how you say it and how you feel when you're, when you're taking it in. So yeah, it's start to finish, everything's important.
I'll say, do you fully realize the extent to the way that you touch people? Or is every thank you and every email you get saying, Eddie, your words are powerful, is that still like a wow moment for you?
Yeah, it blows my mind. I mean, it's just such an incredible thing. And I talk about all the time that the beauty of social media is obviously the reach. It's so valuable. And you can help so many people at such a scale. The downside is it comes across as numbers, right? And it's like views or likes and it's like, it's every single one of those is a person that heard what you had to say and hopefully, it helped them in some way. And so when someone does reach out or send a message, it's like, yeah, it's so rewarding. It makes it all worth it.
Awesome.
Good.
So when did all this begin? Were you sitting in the cubicle of your office job and just said, what, these PowerPoints are just kicking my ass. They can suck my ass. I'm going to leave this.
Or was yeah. No, I mean, you're sort of on the right track already. I mean, it was, I remember just any creative, and I did do a lot of PowerPoints, and it was like anything creative outside the realm of, black and white bullets I was reprimanded. And I'm like, maybe this is not my spot, maybe this is not the right place. So, no, I love music and I love creating, and I just knew like that was a realm I wanted to go. And so I've been sort of building a studio and playing around, like writing music and working with different songwriters around Boston, producing, doing some creative writing, just kind of all that stuff. And when I finally left the corporate world, I'm like, this is my time, right? And to explore and try things. And I got the camera out. I started making videos. I started writing. I started putting, I made this little EP of like 7 songs, just did all kinds of stuff. And, the way it worked, without giving you my whole life story is an interesting thing. It's like, it starts off fun and exciting, but very quickly gets scary, right? Because, that whole safety net is you realize after some time, it's like, well, there's real value in waking up and knowing that you have a paycheck coming in, and there's value in knowing where you're supposed to be in life. And so, when that stopped, I was tempted to sort of retreat back into what I knew. And the first speech I ever wrote was like a promise to myself to sort of continue on in this experiment. And it was like, I've played pretty conservatively my whole life. I've never really allowed myself to fail. I've always done what I was supposed to do. And so I promised myself this would be my time to prove to myself that I could pick myself up if something did happen.
As I say, you speak to the language of getting a paycheck and knowing that certainty is there. We're both in the entrepreneurial world right now. She's got her own party business, and she just last Friday quit her job, her day job. And I've been working from home.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's
exciting, but very scary at the same time, but more exciting than scary at this point. So that's good. You have to have that in your life.
Right. It's like they go hand in hand,
Yes.
Say, but one of your last videos, or one of my favorite videos of yours, you spoke on the train that leads everyone straight to Mediocreville. And I think that's the most powerful message I've gotten from you, is that, what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, scary as hell as it might be, and what she's trying to do, as uncertain as it might be, although she's got both feet in and she's killing it. But just the idea of people around us, or we've seen people that just, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is the way I'm supposed to act, this is the way things are supposed to be done. And your affirmation of that, it clicked with me, and that's just another positive message I got from you.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear. I mean, there's this primal instinct that we want to avoid anything that sort of shakes the status quo. And if you continue down that road, a lot of the times you're not hit with some like crazy catastrophe. You just sort of move right along, to use that terminology, to Mediocreville. You live a life that's not bad. I mean, we're very lucky to have a lot of the things we have, but it certainly will not be remarkable. Right. And, there's an element of risk required. And tomorrow I'm working on a video talking about, Jordan Peterson really spelled this out beautiful for me, the sort of dancing of chaos and order. And how, we have this idea that chaos is bad. And the way he explained it is like, it's just as necessary as order. Things are calm, there's order, then you have to break them. Then you have to pick up the pieces, rebuild it, and you have something new, and then you break it again. And so life is this perpetual staircase, and that's how you ascend. And I just thought that was a beautiful way of sort of articulating what we're trying to do.
As I say, I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. I picked up on him from Rogan's podcast, and I gave her his audiobook, which is a bit lengthy and talkative.
I'm still working through it, but
what's really good in bite-sized pieces, he has an entire course that he did at University of Toronto. Maybe you've seen it. He recorded every class, so you can go like lecture by lecture. And I almost think that's better than his book. I really liked it.
It is, yeah.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah.
You're telling me about?
I say they might be an hour long, hour and 45 minutes long, but it's still, his book is just kind of, it drones on, and he elaborates on every thought.
It can be tough. Yeah, it can be tough.
But as philosophers go.
So when you were in the corporate world, what did you do?
Well, it was called the Future Leaders Program. Basically, it was just kind of a rotation. Like they put you, it was in insurance. I mean, they put you in different parts of the insurance company, property, casualty. Pretty dry business. and I ended up creating onboarding programs for new hires. And, it's funny because at the time, it's almost as you grow up and look back, like there were a lot of really valuable things, and I truly appreciate them now, particularly the people and working with people, understanding projects, how to move things across a finish line. The idea that everyone just wants to feel valued. I mean, there were so many very important things that, I learned there, but it just ultimately, it was too sort of restricting. I'm like, I want to
sounds like
try. So that was sort of my launch pad into entrepreneurship.
So what's your studio look like? Is it an entire room just dedicated with all the foam on the sides? And
no, I mean, it's what you're looking at. I mean, it's the corner of a room. Yeah, that's where I write. My desk is facing the window, and it's an L, so that's where I usually type, facing that window. And nothing fancy.
All right, so Fort Lauderdale, every day, got to be beautiful down there. What's your normal routine? What's your timeline look like when you wake up to when you go to bed?
Yeah. When there's no hurricanes, it's a it's a beautiful place. So I've recently had a little bit of a shift. I started I'm writing. I'm working on a book, and so I found that when I change locations, it helps me sort of get excited about it and get creative. So I go to Pinero, and that's where, I doing the coffee club, I get my coffee and I sit there and I write for a little bit. Yeah. Right. And then, so I come back and then do some administrative stuff and do my workout, and then move into, whatever projects I have for the day. Most calls are in the afternoon that I have, but it's sort of, just kind of blocked out. My morning is the most, I would say, the most precious. Like it's funny, you start to crave that cup of coffee and just the quiet and just sitting there with your laptop. It's awesome. So
what time do you wake up in the morning?
6-ish.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to get an handle on successful people. I mean, you hear all the stories of, I get up at 4 a.m, or I get up at 6, or, whatever time they get up and start their day.
What's funny?
Morning.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Those morning hours are valuable.
They are. I mean, it's just, it makes me feel like I won the first battle of the day. But I was talking to a friend of mine, who is just, everything he does is different than I do. He's got this corporate job and this, very, 9-to-5, beautiful family, and just absolutely loves everything about what he does. And he's so happy and he's so content. He sleeps in and he's productive outside of that. And he doesn't need, so it's like, obviously I have a lot of friends now in this industry, and everyone talks about what they do as if it's the way.
Right.
And my thought is always like, wait. Life is sort of this exploration process. You are your own experiment. And I would guess that, and data shows that the majority of CEOs and people in leadership positions do wake up early, but not always. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so I would advocate thinking less of life as sort of this rubric or this path that you have to follow, and more of, okay, here's the guide. Here's what clearly works for a lot of people, but maybe not me, and throw that against the wall and see what sticks.
Well, as I say, and you are without children, so I think that helps.
That's very true. That could be a game changer,
It definitely is.
Yeah.
It's like going through Hell Week for 4 or 5 years. You're getting up whenever the
holy shit
goes off. Yeah, not to scare you away. Of course.
If you needed some birth control.
I wanted to ask you, switching gears and going back to before, when you started all of this. You share a story on one of your videos that explains a girl coming up to you in a bar, and he asks you the question, what do you do? Just kind of like the beginning stages of a conversation of what could be a relationship or whatever. Could you please tell that story?
Yeah. I mean, I really, struggled with that. And I struggled with the lack of identity. I struggled with feeling like for the first time in my life, I didn't have this direction, and I wasn't doing something that that at the moment I was proud of. I mean, my whole life felt like a risk, right? And so the story you're referencing, I went into a bar, and my friends were in town, and they're successful, sharp guys. And they're talking about what they're doing, and I remember really thinking like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. They're going to ask me, and they did. They said, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm working on a YouTube channel. And it's just, it really makes it, it grounded it for me. It was like, this is going to be tough, because, and it shouldn't be, but I mean, look, that's the reality of the situation. Egos are a thing. And, you sort of learn to repress that and learn to, see the ultimate prize down the road. But that was, for me, like, if I had to think about one reason starting out this journey, why I would have quit, that would have been it. Like, feeling like I was lesser of myself. It was very hard for me to deal with. So overcoming that was huge. And a lot of people responded to that story, which is interesting because like so many things, there's overlap. And I think a lot of people, when you lose your identity is everything, and when you lose that, you feel like you're wandering around in the dark. It's hard. And that's sort of when people want to retreat, and hopefully that message says, no, like, push that aside and sort of build something substantial. And that's what it takes. It takes not knowing.
Absolutely. Let's
For
say
sure.
she's going through that now, but I think your transition to identity and things like that is a lot easier than mine was. I was a personal trainer for, say, 11, 12 years, and all of a sudden I just stopped. I was tired of dealing with people's issues and things that weren't my own, taking them on as my own. Plus I had a wife and 2 kids at home that would start to take up more of my time. So I just got burnt out of it. There was a time period there, like I said, when you've dug me out of a hole, or helped dig me out of a hole, where it was an identity crisis. What the hell am I? Well, what do I do now? I'm okay with woodwork. I can do things, but I got into that and progressed into that, and I'm still not there 100% because I'm still dabbling. I want to dabble in this almost more than the woodworking and stuff like that. So, but that story is so real world that I just wanted people to hear it if they hadn't yet. So
Yeah, no, that's cool. It'll be cool to see how everything evolves. I forget who said, like, human beings, and I've used this quote so many times, human beings always follow through on who they believe themselves to be. And so, a big part of that is realizing, you don't have to look externally for anything, for any direction, for any answers. It really is sitting down and, to your point, asking yourself the tough questions, asking yourself what you love, and sort of, making that move. When people talk about running, or, let's say wanting to run, it's like the transition happens when they start to identify as a runner, and then start making those moves, and it's just, so much of it is mental. And that's why I love what I do. It's why I love this. It's like, you can change so much by tweaking so little.
Yeah, it's amazing. So when you, backing up just a little bit, but when you decide to leave your corporate job and pursue this and your music and everything, did you have people in your life going, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you sure about this?
Yeah, I did. And interestingly enough, like, a lot of my friends sort of dropped off. I didn't hear a ton from them. It's the ones that are around you and love you and care about you that are the most concerned, right? It's my parents and my grandmother and, my girlfriend at the time. They're like, I hope you know what you're doing, right? And it's it's like, and it's not out of a lack of belief. It's just sheer concern. It's like, you're giving up a good thing, and to give up something and move towards that metaphorical nothing, or the momentary nothing, is tough. So yeah, that's where most of it came from. It was like sort of convincing the people around me, like, this is the right thing. This is the right thing. So, and they've had my back, but yeah, it took took time to get the ball rolling.
Yes. How long ago was it that you?
About 7 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you've made it? I feel like you've made it. I feel like I got a celebrity in front of my face today.
You know, oh, well, that's humbling to hear. I appreciate that. I have this disease where I never feel like I've made it. You know what I mean? Like I just,
Yes.
I always, I'm looking at what's to come. And, you know, so much of the stuff I write about, it's me coaching me, right? It's like, it's what I'm going through in my life. And it's like, what do you need right now? And so, you know, a few days ago, I put out sort of a sentiment that's like, if you're constantly looking ahead, you're always going to feel inadequate, always, because there's always more to do. It doesn't matter if you're Bezos or you're just starting some venture, right? And so you have to look over your shoulder and say to yourself, you know, you've come far. Like, look what you've done. Look how you see things now. Look how you think now. You're not the same person you were. And so there's certainly value in both, right? So much of life is that gray area. I think, you know, human beings we're so inclined to simplify and bucket left, right, good, bad, this, that, and almost everything is right in the middle. Almost everything is gray. So yeah.
Say, do you take time to celebrate the victories? Like, yes, I just put out some awesome video, or I just made some great music. I'm going to go celebrate, or I'm going to sit and reflect on it. Or is it because we have this problem, kind of like you do, where it's a disease where, all right, well, we got that done. We're moving on. Okay, this is coming up. I got to get that finished. That's finished. Okay, I got to move on. Go into the next thing. I mean, it's just
We just forget to celebrate.
Yeah, we don't
appreciate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing that you're aware of that already. I mean, because I spent years without that awareness, where it's like, this is going to get empty if you don't appreciate it, you know? And so to answer your question, I do, and I try to do more of it, but it's, I would say that's something that I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause there's, it's fun too. Like it's not like it's torture and it's like on to the next. It's like, there's this excitement about, like, okay, like what's the next piece? And so it happens subtly. And yeah, that's when you need to hit the brakes a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say, do you meditate? How do you find time to teach yourself? I mean, you're talking about, you got to reflect quite a bit and say, okay, what do I need now? I mean, you just go sit on the beach after a run and just kind of, okay, I got the endorphins flowing. What's the process?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I live on the beach. I have trouble sitting on the beach. It just feels like, I don't know. So my meditation is my running. It's when I can think, you know, and one of my favorite quotes is little hinges swing big doors. You know, and I've spent a lot of time exploring the little things that have big impacts in my day. You know, you hit on one of them when you said the morning, like getting up early is just this nice, beautiful, quiet time for me to start. So is running. It's like, it's not a small difference in my life between when I'm running and when I'm not. You know, I'm coming over this ankle injury, and I'm talking like almost a year of my left ankle, my right knee, just driving me insane. And I don't want to jinx it, but I think I'm finally past it. And just the pure happiness and just clarity. And it's just so much better for me when I'm able to run. And so that's when I meditate. That's when I reflect on myself, where I'm going, what I want to say, what I want to build, that just everything. It's condensed into that time.
I'll say good for you, because a lot of people when they're running, they're just trying not to die, or
That would be
oh man, yeah, no,
quite a bit different when you're, I don't know, just maybe a little bit out of shape. But you know, I work out, physically work out, whether it's with weights or go hit the steps at the stadium or something like that. But I usually get the best blood flow to the brain afterwards. So like for an hour to 3 hours afterwards, it's about my time.
Yeah.
Probably similar for you.
How did you come across that? Was that something that like you I mean, it was just very evident as soon as you're done, you have this clarity, or was it something that you were like, when's the best time to go over that stuff? Or
I think it started back in college. I was running track in college, and you know, you get done with the workout, feel absolutely dead, but about 20 to 30 minutes after that, you're just in a zone, or at least I am. And I tried to carry that throughout my life here, but we just jump from one thing to the next nowadays, to where, okay, I got done with my workout. There's no time to sit, reflect. It's just time to jump right in. The kids need me for this, or I got a project to finish at home.
We have to learn to carve out that time.
Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing how that period you carve out of nothing? It's like,
Yeah.
not to be cliche, but it's everything. Like it's so important to just hear yourself think. You can go a year without stopping and listening to yourself. I was noticing, you know, I'm my obsession, like my weird thing is like the founding fathers and like US history. And so I'm always, anytime that there's nothing going on, I'm intaking that stuff. Or like I'm in the shower, it's playing. I'm washing the dishes. There's like maybe it's not history, but there's some podcast going on. I'm taking a walk. I'm in the car. There's always intake. And I had this realization the other day where it's like, shut it off. Like it can't be good to constantly have that stuff going into your ears, you know? And it's a really good point. So you gotta carve out that quiet.
Cause I get so uncomfortable when it's complete silence. Like I don't know what to do with myself.
Right. So we're not used to it anymore.
Yeah. So I think you're right. You need to learn to shut it off, even if it's 5-10 minutes. Your body needs that.
Let's say that probably speaks to our home life, is that she can sit in a room where it's, you know, Megadeth playing in the background or something full volume and just be happy. Whereas I hear the cats walking across the linoleum floor and I'm like, oh my God, I can't concentrate. You know, that type of thing. So it's different for different people.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in my beginning tribute to you. Would you consider yourself a guru? I didn't want to put that label on you, but you know.
No, I consider myself a storyteller. I think, you know, I believe that's why I've been able to connect with people, and it helps me and it excites me to sort of document the trials and tribulations of life, because I think so many of us go through the same things, right? The context changes, but the basic premise doesn't. And then it a lot of times doesn't matter if you are, you know, whatever, an athlete, a doctor, a student, whatever. And so to be able to tell sort of those wins and those losses in a way that's just authentic and real, is what resonates with people. So I think, you know, when I hear the word guru, I mean, in my mind, it has a negative connotation, because so much of life is experimental and there are so many people claiming to know things that are just impossible to know. And so you can guide and you can direct. And that's what, you know, I want to do, make people think, like stop, pause, and take a look at yourself, your life, ask yourself tough questions. And that's what I hope my stories do. You know, well, this happened to Eddie and this was the impact. Well, what about me? Because there's something similar here. And that's as simple as I look at it.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's why I relate to you so well, is because you relate a story of going out and getting a morning coffee and running into two guys that one of them says, oh, I'm having a horrible day. And it's not even 7 o'clock yet. And he's got the chance, and, you know, to change his whole day up, and you're just sitting back observing it. And then you go on to a whole 20-minute speech on how that affected your life, you know, and it's
true though.
Yeah. It's just everyday applications. And I think that's why you're in my top 3. The other 2 are, you know, one's an ass kicker and the other one's more of a philosophist, and, you know, but your messages come across as, this guy sits down, he hears his own thoughts, he kind of reflects on them, he kind of moves with them, stays on the positive side of them, recognizes the shitty parts of them, but then moves on with the positive stuff. So your storytelling is exactly what a lot of people need. That's why I hope, having seen this, they'll go check you out.
Well, that means the world to me. I really do appreciate that. And, you know, to be put there. And it's interesting because there are days, you know, to your point, where it's like, where I don't want to think. I mean, there are days where I need to crank Gary V and I need to hear him say, stop being a dipshit and get up. And it's like,
Yes.
all right, thanks. And then there are times where you want to go more philosophical. There are times where it's just, it depends. But yeah, the reality is, the biggest changes, and I, catch myself thinking this way all the time. It's like, we're looking at where we want to go and we think big. We think monumental change is required. And sometimes it's amazing how little a shift from hearing a story or an anecdote or something so small and so relatable can completely change the trajectory. It's happened to me and it'll happen to me again. And that's a beautiful thing.
So you said Gary Vee is somebody you listen to sometimes. Where else do you find your motivation? Who are your top people that you like?
Oh man, I try and pull it from all over the place.
Could do a top 10 if you want.
Yeah, I do listen to Gary Vee and like the Eric Thomas stuff when like I want some intensity.
Yes.
But I really enjoy like Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris. I like a lot of philosophy sort of sprinkled in. And then I also really enjoy, like I mentioned before, the founding fathers and some of these historical figures and just how they looked at life and how they looked at, the world. And so much of, I think this is a really cool thing, who we are as individuals and the idea of sort of progressing and becoming more is intertwined into the American ideal and the Declaration and all these things. And it's just, to me, it all comes full circle and it's such a beautiful, powerful thing. So, but anyway, I could go down that rabbit hole forever, but music, movies, experiences, times where I get my teeth kicked in, right? Where things, fall through when I didn't want them to, or, just life. There's so much. I have Evernote on my phone, and basically it's this crazy long list of just gibberish and things that I see, and I'm like, there's value there, and I'll kind of put that down. You do the same thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's otherwise you forget it, right? It's perfect.
I say an idea pops in there, you better get it down because you've got so many other ideas and influences. And like you said, shit coming at you all day long. It's like, okay, I better get a hold of that right now and just start talking into your phone.
Because it's gone forever. I mean, there are so many times where it's this massive idea. I'm like, this is amazing. And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, gone. No idea what it is. Yeah, writing it down is huge.
I was going to ask you a question, but just bouncing off of that topic, I forgot what the hell it was.
See, you didn't write it down.
Yeah, I didn't write it down. I should have just jumped over here out of screen and wrote it down.
I was going too rapid fire.
But no, I have a real problem with reading, sitting down in a quiet space, because I really don't have a quiet space unless I go sit in a truck somewhere in the Lowe's parking lot or somewhere like that, to where I can actually just sit still, focus on reading. How much do you read? How much do you take in through reading?
Yeah, so reading with it taken with a grain of salt, right? Because I find, and there's a lot of people that this will just make cringe, but it's just so much more efficient to get Audible and put it on 1.5, 1.7 to speed, depending on the author. You just take in so much more that I find myself reading substantially less now and listening more.
Let's say, do you notice a difference when you actually sit down and visually take in the words versus listening to Audible? Because I find myself, unless I'm really entrenched in that book and Audible, I find myself drifting, or I'll follow the last thought he said and just start thinking on that last thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I do that helps, because I definitely understand where you're coming from, is like when I hear something valuable, there's a way to make a bookmark, and I'll literally re-speak the phrase into Audible. So like I'll have a list of all the bookmarks, and then where I'm like mentioning verbally, all the important things, and it helps me retain. And even if you do forget, you can go back and what are there going to be 40 bookmarks throughout the whole book, and you can get kind of that Cliff Notes summary pretty quick.
Okay.
I find that to be pretty valuable.
Okay. My question popped back in there.
Oh yeah.
Got it back.
I don't know how it boomeranged, but it came back around. It's kind of an off the wall question, but you're talking about the founding
I
fathers.
love off the wall. Yeah.
The founding fathers and whatnot. How many years do you think it would take them to frickin' acclimate to the way that things have evolved politically? I mean, if they were to come back in a time capsule today and say, okay, you guys have really jacked up everything that we've put forth. Walk me through the branches of the government and tell me how each thing works. I mean, just because the tentacles have so far outreached from just the basic, constitution.
Sure. I mean, that's a big question. I think one of the misconceptions is that things are more polarized and more toxic than they were, which is just not the case. I mean, politics has always been sort of a toxic thing. And the reality is, like, the times have changed. Like, I couldn't even speculate as to the internet and all these things that just completely transform how we communicate. I mean, there are problems that, I don't know how they relate. And I couldn't say, like, a Madison, a Jefferson, an Adams, a Washington, like what they, I have to.
Got a stumper. As a stumper, huh?
Yeah, but with regard to
question.
yeah, and then what did you ask about, like, the three branches?
Oh, I was just saying, if they were brought back, I mean, they were considering the intricate web that the government is now, compared to, so many parties or so many people that were involved in it back in 1776 and before. I just wonder, the three branches, that was just like the basic fundamental part of the government. They, knowing the basic form of it, came back, and all of a sudden it's just expanded into all these different
they'd
branches.
probably be shocked about that, like particularly the executive, and how much garbage is there, and how big it is. I mean, it's one of the and this is sort of debatable, but the government's role is to protect our ability to live lives as we see fit. And Jefferson talks about the individual, and we have these rights that precede government, and in a way, it does so much more than that now. And then you can talk about the role of God, and how that's sort of declining, and in a lot of ways government is becoming that figure. I mean, politicians are becoming gods to a lot of people, and people are looking up to them for their morality, and there's a lot of shifting. But yeah, I think that's one thing that is definite. It's black and white. The government's a lot bigger, and not necessarily for better, in my opinion.
As I say, on your messages, on your videos and things like that, you never talk politics, you never talk religion, which is kind of the basis for our show. That was my first political question, if you will.
Yeah.
And that was just a hypothetical fun question to ask you. But is there a reason why you don't traverse down either of those paths?
I struggle sometimes because I love it, and I'm very passionate about it. And I can understand, this is the thing, right? Like, I have friends that are liberal, and I have friends that are Republican, and I understand why the liberals think they do the way they do, and I understand why the Republicans think they do. I know that's not the case in a lot of ways. And so, having spent so much time and pouring so much of myself into building this platform, it's like, do you really want to cut your audience in two? Probably not, right? And so I go back and forth with, the JP quote, if you have something to say and you don't say it, you are in fact lying. And then, this sort of toxic politicizing of everything. Like, politics isn't things that, it's like gross. You don't want politics in our entertainment and in some of these aspects of life. And so I don't have a right answer, and I'm not sure what I think, but I do think about it a lot, because there are times when things happen. I'm like, I'd love to, even if it's philosophically, even if it's explain both sides to people in a way that's calm and rational. But there's a real with me or against me type thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to douse my work in that. So that's been my thought.
That's kind of like on the same page that we are. Yeah. We figure that everyone's kind of pigeonholed into their idea, their belief system. So, excuse me, for you to hear you say, it'd be nice just to be able to explain to people both sides. You know, this is the way they think, this is the way they think, and to not have them ignite that fire and say, well,
Yeah.
that is just ludicrous, you know. So that's
It would never happen.
it would never happen. So that
Yeah, exactly. And you wonder how much of it is like, you know, people concerned about policy, and how much of it is uh, essentially the sports team mentality. I got a Yankees cap, you got a Red Sox cap. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but go, go, go. And it's like, you know, it's a good reason to avoid it, I think.
Yes. So what do you think is the most common thing that you've found, you know, from either your live speeches or your different content that you put out that people get the most out of, like that you get the most feedback from?
Well, this is what's interesting. It spans a lot of platforms. Like my original thinking was that it would be YouTube. Like that's where I spend my most time. But it's really crazy to me how Spotify and podcasting has changed that quite a bit. I mean, I think audio, well, I mean, audio is growing and sort of taking off. And yeah, so it's sort of an ever evolving thing. And like TikTok, for example, I just jumped on there. I never thought I'd be saying that. And
surprise.
you know, it's connected me with a lot of people that are really interested in what I have to say, particularly a younger crowd. And you know, they're finding the podcast and the YouTube from there. So just kind of getting my message out there to as many places as possible.
As I say, you seem to be everywhere. You know, I turned on Alexa the other day and I said, play Your World Within, and whoop, she started playing your music.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess I put some instrumental tracks up. Wow, must have been like 7 years ago. That's funny though. But yeah, that's the goal. You know, you never know. And the thing is, like, you know, I'll make this speech and you can utilize it in so many different ways, which I'm sure you guys both know. It's like content can be transformed. You know, you can take that 7-second bit. Like there are speeches that are 10 minutes and I'll be like, I'm so proud of it. Like this means so much to me. It's so real to me. And I'll put it on YouTube, and for some reason, it just won't be one that strikes a chord. And it's like, okay, on to the next, right? And so I'll take that audio and I'll put it on Spotify, and I'll take, you know, this happened twice now. I'll take like 5 seconds of it, put it on TikTok, and it'll be seen 250,000 times. And the comments are people like, this changed my life. And I'm like, what in God's name? So you just never know. And yeah, it's like the more shots you take, the more likely you are to hit.
So I say, do you think that's where everyone's sight is going? They're going from not liking the YouTube videos to something that's just, I mean, I feel like America's and the whole world's attention span is just going out the window.
Yeah.
I just want it short. I want it sweet. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely truth to that. I mean, YouTube is now a long form platform, and there's an audience for that. I think there always will be. TikTok is quick blasts of dopamine, but there's also something I've spent time on it, like really raw and organic about Instagram. It's like marketers haven't, or about TikTok. It's like marketers haven't destroyed or corrupted it yet.
Yeah.
It feels like kids in a bedroom, just shooting things that they think are funny, or I've noticed the demo is going up. A lot of these celebrities are jumping on now. A lot of, like, you know, it's not just high schoolers anymore. And but it's just, there's this informality and just this rawness that's really cool. Like Instagram now, it's 100% safe to say is pay to play. If you don't spend money on marketing, you're not going to do well on Instagram. I mean, that's my opinion. There are people that might, you know, whatever, they'll say what they want to say. That's fair. But there is, if you post content that's valuable on TikTok, the odds of it reaching an organic audience is there. And there's just no other platforms where that's possible. And it's just such a fun thing. And I think that's where, and by the way, you know, the Instagrams and the YouTubes notice that, and YouTube's, you know, testing now the shorts and the short app, and they're trying to do these things to sort of mimic and grab that feel because they know that it's working. So it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. I think there'll always be a place for both, though. I think there will always be a
Yeah,
place for long form and short.
Yeah, say in the instance with Jordan Peterson, you want to hear the whole speech versus just a short little soundbite.
Yeah, exactly. But it's great for because Jordan Peterson. I mean, that's a great example. I think there was an account. Maybe it was. I can't remember. Maybe it was there's an account where it's like actors sitting around a round table talking about their experiences and stuff. And there's been a few times where it's like the top of the funnel. It's like you hear 30 seconds and it's like, oh my God, I need to find this speech now. And like you go, searching the YouTubes and the interwebs.
Say, do you think the TikTok appeal is because they can actually play current music without having to go back and say, I don't own the rights to this music? I mean, I don't know diddly about TikTok really, but I know that they have access to like current songs without having to pay a fee for it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely valuable. It makes it's like instead of raising hell, just pay the artist. Who cares, right? That you're using the song, and they do that, and it mitigates a lot of BS and conflict. It's just so simple. It's just so simple, and simplicity is key.
Yeah.
Is that part of
Are
the
you guys
reason
on there?
why?
No, we are not. Well, you just
No, I dabble, but I more like, scroll through it rather than post anything myself. But
Gotcha.
so I was wondering with your podcast, is that kind of why you've kept them short and sweet? I like, get on there and they're 8 minutes, 15 minutes, where we're kind of all over the place with time depending on who we're talking to, but I like the little short bits.
Well, part of it is sort of, and if I'm going a route that is too, like, you don't want to go, just let me know. But like, the YouTube stuff, like it really changed. If you look at my first like 3 years, 4 years, maybe even 5, everything's 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And now if you do that, there's a much higher likelihood that YouTube just buries it. And no one wants to create content that doesn't get seen, right? I write things because they mean something to me. And I think they can help people. So it's like, well, that's an obstacle. How do I get around it? YouTube rewards watch time. So I'm trying to make longer content, which is a total shift in how I write and how I'm putting things out there on that platform. And so, whether it's making a compilation of speeches or, just a long speech, whatever it is, to answer your question, that's why they end up being about 8 minutes to 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then I just take that audio and that becomes the podcast. I dabbled like a couple of years ago, but now I'm doing something similar where I'm going to start having guests on and maybe doing some longer form conversations and just see how that goes. Always trying to experiment and just find that spot where, I really enjoy what I'm doing and it adds value, because when you can create those fireworks, that's a good thing. So always poking around for that.
Well, I'll listen to that. I'll listen to those podcasts.
And we're available if you want to
appreciate
interview us
Yeah,
too.
right.
Just putting that out there.
Gotcha.
Well, hey, we don't want to keep you too long, but I wanted to ask you one more question about the YouTube content. Does it bother you, or does it steal from your table more or less if people take from Your World Within and put it into their mixed compilations?
No, I think the more people that hear it, the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've heard your stuff in numerous other things, and I thought, I just wonder, I always wanted to ask him. I wonder if I'll ever get the chance to ask him, and here I am. So just wanted to know if it was like, that son of a gun stealing my stuff. He's putting into his, and now he's getting more views and all that. So
no, I think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if particularly if there's credit, right, and you can point people back to the channel. But yeah, the more people that hear it, the better.
Okay. Well, Eddie, this has been fantastic. You are one of the most people I idolize. Like I said, you've dug me out of a couple holes and put me on the right track, and try to listen to you at least one particular way every day, just to kind of set my mind at ease and let know everything it's good. It's all good. Don't need to worry about
It's all good
about it. But I can't thank you enough for joining us today.
This was great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for having me. This was an awesome conversation. So I appreciate it.
Well, hopefully we can speak again in the future, sometime, anytime. So
let's do it.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
sir.
Eddie.
Take care.
All right.